Welcome to episode 1 of the Retirement Show. This is the first in a series of videos that will help you think and prepare for the future. This is something that is a scary part of life. You're moving from a paid work, whether it's part-time or full-time, into a situation where you're reliant on income from your pension or super or other income to sustain yourself all the way through the third or fourth stage of your life. The first big question we need to address is how much is enough? I'm sure you've thought about this. In fact, many of you may have had sleepless nights thinking, do I have enough money in my super or in my pension or in my assets to allow me to enjoy the sort of lifestyle that I hoped and planned for in retirement? But before we dive into that question, I want to let you know how we work here at the Retirement Show. I'm going to give you 20 minutes of advice and guidance, and I'm also going to give you some activities, some homework if you like, to go away as you go on this journey preparing for your life after work. Typically in each episode there'll be 5 or 6 pieces of homework that you need to do, and I'll also provide you with resources and materials to help you do that homework. What that will give you is it'll give you better ideas of what your personal situation looks like, where you're ahead of the game, where you need to do a bit more work, where you may need to catch up, and also frame that in the current legislation that allows you to make these additional activities to optimize your retirement savings. So what are the variables that impact the amount of money that you need for your retirement? First and foremost, are you single? Is it just you that you're looking to build a nest egg for and have assets that sustain you for the whole of your life all the way through to end of life? If you're single, it's obviously very different from if you're in a couple, married or a significant other, or living with somebody, cohabiting with somebody. The numbers are very different if you've got somebody else who you're funding for through housing and food and all of the cost of living that you need to do. So during this episode we'll take a look at what the expectations are for somebody who is retiring single and somebody who is retiring as a couple. Let's go and have a look at some of the industry figures provided to help us understand how much money we need in retirement. The Association of Super Funds of Australia provides a quarterly report which allows us to get some guidance as to how much they believe you need to sustain yourself during retirement. For a comfortable lifestyle, for a single person, they're recommending $54,000 per annum. For a modest lifestyle, they're recommending $35,000 per annum. And that's for people who own their own house, not renting. If you're renting, it's around $49,000 per annum. The caveat for each of those figures is it depends on your expenditure, right? Do you own a car or 2 cars? Do you have high-speed internet? How much money do you spend on gas, electricity, water, rates, travel? And for each of us it's different. So I've enclosed in the comments down below the links to this so that you can see what assumptions the association has made for each of those options. Okay, it's time for homework number 1. So the largest amount of assets that you're likely to have outside of your home is your superannuation. So often we go through life and our employer puts money into our superannuation for us, and rarely do we check the balance. So homework number 1 for everybody on this video is I want you to go and check your superannuation balance. Most super funds provide you with a very easy online way to log in and check, and this is a really good way of you checking to see, first of all, do you have access to your account, and secondly, what is the current balance? Hopefully you'll have a nice surprise when you actually log in and see what the figure is currently, as the amount has been accruing over the years. But equally, it's an opportunity for you to make sure that you identify all of the super that you've got. You've probably heard that it makes sense to have a single super fund so that you minimize the management fees that you're expending. And so this is also an activity to go and check multiple balances. So I want you to come back next time and share with me how many accounts you've got, and you should think about strategies for actually consolidating that into a single fund. So homework number one, go and check what your super balance is. The next element to this is, how much do we spend? How much do you on your own, or how much do you as a couple spend each week? I was surprised when we did this activity that the amount of money that we spent each week was more than I had anticipated. And it covers things like essentials. So the essentials are food, beverages, electricity, gas, housing, etc., clothing. And then there's the nice to have, the luxuries, if you like. Those are things like travel, both domestically and internationally, and events that you go to. You may go to a cricket or a show or a soccer match. All of those things are classified as nice to have. So how do we actually budget for all of those? Well, the nice thing about our super funds, again, is that they have calculators, and these are very sophisticated calculators. For this video, I went and had a look at the calculators from Host Plus, from Equip Super, and from Australian Super, and the links are in the comments below. And you need to go away and think about all of your expenditure. So homework number two is for you to go away and complete one of the superannuation calculators. You can use one of the three that I've just talked about, but I strongly encourage you to go and use a calculator. And I strongly encourage you to go through first of all and go through it as a trial, and you'll find all of the things, all of the variables that you need to select. So for example, I didn't actually have the total amount of electricity that our household spends. So it's a way of you going away and doing the homework, making sure that you've done an audit of your expenditure, and then once you've got all of those numbers, actually put it into the calculator, and it will allow you to say, okay, what is the drawdown period? How long do you expect to live? How long do you expect your superannuation and pension to last for? What are my outgoings? And it'll give you some idea as to how long your funds are going to last. So this is homework number two. First of all, log into one of those calculators, go through as a trial and see make a note of all the elements that they need, all the variables that they need. Go and collect that information either from your bank statements or from your credit card statements, either from you individually or from your as a couple, as a household, and then enter those elements into one of these calculators. What it does do is it allows you to take your current super balance with the expenditure that you're currently making per annum, and it gives you a guide as to how much money you've got and how long it's going to last. So now, if you've done your homework number one, the super balance for you and your spouse. Secondly, you've done the audit of your annual expenditure. Now you've got a baseline. You've got a baseline to understand how prepared you are for retirement. Here at the Retirement Show, we've been working on a methodology around 8 elements that you need to think about for retirement. And we're going to go through all 8 elements over the next few videos. But today we're focused on number one, financial stability. Are you completely underprepared, moderately prepared, somewhat prepared, or very prepared for the future? And I'm going to sort of give you a categorization of what level 1, which is completely unprepared, is, and give you some sort of indication of what that looks like from a personal perspective. And then I'm going to go through each of the 5 so that you can see what you need to do to be as best prepared as you can prior to you making that leap into retirement. So, level one. Level one is not prepared at all. In this case, the individual would have very little superannuation, so they've had little opportunity to be in the workforce for an extended period of time over their working life. In addition, they haven't had the opportunity to secure and acquire a home. They may also have significant debts. Those debts may relate to a lease for a vehicle or other things that they need. They have no savings or low savings, and they really are in a difficult financial position. That situation is where many people start from, and the longer you give yourself to get yourself on a more regular footing and take steps to provide yourself with assets for the future, the better. So this is level one, completely unprepared. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. So what does level two, somewhat prepared, look like? There are a small amount of savings. There's debt, which relates to mortgages, home, car lease payments, etc. And it's being managed. But the individual has no formal budgeting. So they live paycheck to paycheck, and they have really no idea of what's coming in and what's going out, and they're just keeping their head above water, but they're not building a nest egg for the future. What does level three look like? Prepared. Someone who is prepared generally has regular work, full-time or part-time. They have consistent income. They have debt, but they're managing the debt. But more importantly, they've got a budget which allows them to make sure that they don't spend more than they earn. And equally, they've got a 20-year plan which is preparing them for the long term. Level four is very prepared. This individual typically has full-time work. They have paid off their mortgage. They have savings. They even have assets in outside of cash. So they may have a share portfolio. They potentially may have an investment property. They're in this fortunate position that they are on top of their finances. They manage within their budget, and they use the money that is in excess to their weekly needs to build assets and income for the future. Level five is exceptionally prepared. They have no debt. They may have multiple investment properties. They may have a family trust. They earn significant income. They manage well within their budget, and they have excess funds to go on domestic holidays, perhaps multiple international holidays per annum. They are able to service the needs of dependents, which may include children or significant others that are part of their family unit. And they also take advantage of all of the tax breaks for putting the maximum amount of money into super each year. So let's start to think about strategies for improving our financial situation. Obviously, on the one hand, there's income, which comes from part-time, full-time work, contract work, consulting, etc. But I'd like us to focus on the outgoings, so our expenditure. And one of the things that you have heard about, which is the Consumer Price Index, it's a way of measuring whether we are in a high inflation period or a low inflation period. This matters because if we're in a high inflation period like we are now, well, let's call it moderate. We're at the upper bands of moderate inflation. It means that the goods that we pay for every week and services that we pay for are likely to cost us more in the future than they cost today. So the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, to help them assess and judge and create the consumer price index, they have a basket of services which a typical household would need to purchase on a monthly basis, and they use the cost of that in aggregate to make up the CPI. So let's have a look at what some of the elements are in a typical basket of goods. The first three are essentials: food and non-alcoholic beverages, clothing and footwear, and housing. The next three could be considered essential too: furniture and fittings, health expenditure, and transport. The next four have some optionality around them: communication, education, recreation, and insurances. Your next bit of homework is to find out some consumer prices. I've got 4 things I'd like you to guess what the price is. How much does it cost to buy a dozen eggs? Number 1. A loaf of bread, a litre of milk, and a litre of petrol. Have a guess and we'll give you the answers at the end of the video. I want to wrap up this episode by talking about the methodology that we're working on here at the Retirement Show. I mentioned that there are 8 elements to it. This episode was around financial stability, and we've spent a lot of time thinking about our personal assets, where we are today, benchmarking where we are today, having a look at other calculators as to how much we need, and also looking at our expenditure patterns. In future videos, we're going to be going through several other elements. The first one of those is around your health, and the physical and mental health is really important as to how you sustain yourself as you go through retirement. So I'd really like you to subscribe now, like this video, and join me again in the next episode where we talk about retirement planning, your health.